Hi, welcome to the Anthony and Todd Show, a weekly podcast that critiques and memes music. I'm your host, Jonathan, aka Please Don't Beat Me Up. And I'm joined by my ever-attentive co-host, my best friend, my pal, my amigo, my droog, Vincent.
aka World Star Blues Rock, World Star Blues Rock. Because World Star Hip Hop is dead. It's all about the blues rock now. God damn it. Blues Rock's dead, kind of.
It's good.
Nah.
It lived its time. It has hit all that it should hit. I think it's a genre that we can let just fade away and we can just stick with what we have.
Yeah, that and garage rock, I think they're both dead.
Yeah. Garage rock.
Which is a large theme of what we're talking about today.
Garage rock turned into all the genres it needed to turn into. It doesn't need to exist anymore.
Garage rock brought us to IDM, which brought us to glitch.
It also gave us punk, which gave us hardcore punk, which gave us...
okay, that transition makes sense. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you were saying like garage rock to like ska to like...
But fuck ska. You know I ain't talking about no goddamn ska.
Ska's important because ska brought us... There wasn't like ska before reggae. Trevor wrote a paper on it in college.
I don't know. I'm not huge on either of those genres.
Yeah. No, but I think ska was first, weirdly enough. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
No.
I remember him saying something
All
about
I know
that.
is
I didn't know it.
I hate ska punk except for two bands, which is Operation Ivy and Rancid.
And
which
Less Than
Rancid
Jake.
is literally just mostly members of Operation Ivy. And the only pretty much the only time I listen to reggae is when it's in like a Clash song.
Oh, I thought you were going to say when it's movies. That's about it.
Yeah, that too. It's in movies.
Okay, welcome to everyone to the Anthony and Todd Show. This is episode 91, an episode we would like to call Thom Yorke's Anima of State. I love that title. Today we're talking about the latest Thom Yorke release, Anima, the latest Black Keys release, Let's Rock, as well as the latest Raconteurs album, Help Us Stranger. You gotta help us. We're in need. Please don't beat me up, though.
Please don't beat me up.
My name's Jack White. Did you hear he got in trouble because people thought he like said a joke in an interview that he like did heroin and was brought out of context by this one like magazine company who did the interview. It says like Jack White does heroin, and then he had to go and like say actually no, it was a joke. Like the sarcasm was in the interview. So it's official. Jack White does and does not do heroin. I think both interviews are still up.
Schrodinger's heroin.
Schrodinger's heroin. Poppy's latest EP, Choke, and the latest Black Midi album, Schlagenheim.
It's German.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you pronounced it horribly.
How did I say? I said Schlagenheim.
You said Schlagenheim.
I said it like
It's Schlagenheim.
Schlagenheim?
Schlagenheim.
So it's not Schlagenheim.
Nope.
Okay, Schlagenheim.
Schlagenheim.
I'm going to call it Schlagenheim anyway, because I'll forget. So today's intro demo was called, I think, Alana for some reason. I just saw that name somewhere. I think it was because she's a member of Thumb House, and I was just like, oh, that's a name. I'll put that as the demo. Because they're usually just random things I think of.
Or insults.
Or insults to Jonathan, but we haven't had one of those in a little while.
Good.
Are you ready to... You ready to go watch some Anima?
It's Amina for starters.
Is Amina?
That's what you have in the notes.
I thought it was I put Amina. It's Anima.
Oh, wow. You suck.
Anima. Yeah.
You just suck.
I can't read or write. Never learned. Thom Yorke is... we're going over Thom Yorke's latest album, Anima. And I just said it wrong earlier. I'm sorry. Am I off? I'm off my cerebral cortex right now. My equilibrium. Because I was sick yesterday. Now I'm not. I'm cleared. I'm good. Don't beat me. Do not beat... Please, sir, don't beat me up. I'm Jack White. Thom Yorke is the English singer-songwriter, the frontman of Radiohead, and this latest project, Anima, is produced by his longtime friend and collaborator, Nigel Goodwich. It's a mix of alt-rock, electronica, glitch, and IDM, and it has this weird gimmick going for it, at least in the promotion, called Anima Technologies, which is this dream camera to recover lost dreams, which is interesting. I don't think it really plays out into the music much, but this entire project, at least the background behind it, from what I was able to grab on the world's greatest resource, what is it?
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia it's inspired by when Thom Yorke saw Flying Lotus do an improvised live set with loops, and Yorke and Nigel developed Anima through live performances and studio work. Yorke would send Godrich sprawling unfinished tracks, and Godrich would edit the tracks into shorter samples and loops, which Yorke wrote lyrics to. I also know some of these songs were intended to be Radiohead songs at one point, because I know Dawn Chorus was intended to be a Radiohead song for I think Moonshade Pool, because it was in an interview he mentioned his favorite Radiohead song to date was Dawn Chorus, the one he was working on currently. So that was interesting. Yorke said the themes include anxiety and dystopia for some reason, and quote from him, "For some reason, I really thought a good way of expressing anxiety creatively was in a dystopian environment. The title Anima is a reference to the psychotherapist Carl Jung's concept of the anima and animus, came from Yorke's obsession with dreams." So, interesting idea. I was really, I guess for the most part, I was really interested in this, but I also know Thom Yorke's had previous solo material that I haven't been too keen on. My experience with Radiohead in the past is I like pretty much all of Radiohead's discography. I think there is some bad points like King of Limbs and Pablo Honey that are just pretty meh, and I think they're very of their own times. Like King of Limbs was very 2010s alternative, while the Pablo Honey was very grungy 90s music. But I think for most part, my experience with Radiohead has been a positive experience. And my experience with Thom Yorke's solo material has just been kind of lame. They just either seem like B-sides or they've just seemed like cuts that should have been Radiohead cuts. And he put out a soundtrack last year for, what was the movie? Suspiria. And that just seemed like the same Radiohead track over and over again. Just this very slow Moonshade Pool style cut over and over, and I just wasn't really interested in that album. But for this, I was just surprised to see where it would go, or at least interested to see where it would go. And I was actually surprised where I feel like this stands out on its own for the most part for me. I don't see it as a Radiohead album where there's some similarities. I'm not saying this thing is completely a new idea because it does have Thom Yorke on it, and there's some tracks on here, especially I think I'm a Very Rude Person and The Axe that kind of sound like Radiohead cuts. But I think for the most part, we're getting this really weird, like loopy kind of like rapid eye movement type style of music where I feel like my eyes are kind of going up and down. That glitchiness really plays in that idea. I think we're getting a dystopian soundscape. I don't really think we're getting dystopian ideas in the songwriting.
Yeah. For me, have never been huge into Radiohead. I've always appreciated them. I've always liked what I've listened to, but they've never been a band that's spoken to me that much. It's one of those things.
Thom Yorke's never spoken to you personally.
Yeah, it's I can listen to it, I can appreciate it, but it's something that I'll never put on myself. It's always somebody else who puts it on.
Trevor's that way. He doesn't like Radiohead.
Yeah,
he doesn't like Thom Yorke's voice.
I don't dislike it, and I don't dislike his voice. It's just it's not something that's what I ever think of listening to. Yeah. It's just it's there, it's good, I appreciate it when it's on, but I will never put it on myself. And I think the same is going to be probably with this album. I liked it. I liked the kind of spacey world that it created, the kind of just out there and atmosphere and all of that stuff, but it's not one of those type of albums that's filled with that's hit me that hard.
Yeah, I think the lyricism is really smart at points, but I don't think it's the sharpest tool in the shed for the most part. The lyricism isn't as most important as I think it is. With a lot of other Radiohead releases, there's a lot of good moments on here with lyricism, but I don't think it's as sharp as I kind of would expect a Thom Yorke project would be. There's some good moments like Traffic, where he's talking, it really gets into the dystopian themes, talking about submit, submerge, no body. He brings up a party with a rich zombie, crime pays, she stays in Kingston in Chelsea, which is an interesting idea of kind of partying with these politicians and these one percenters. And then we get this weird last I heard he was circling the drain loop where he just says I woke up with a feeling I could not take, and it's just repeated over and over and over again. Same thing with Twist, with the twist it's just repeated all over again. I love these glitchy loops we're getting into.
Those are probably my favorite parts.
Dawn Chorus is a beautiful moment where he's talking about how almost kind of wanting a fresh start, talking about Dawn Chorus, which I think is just a bunch of birds is how they say birds are chirping, is Dawn Chorus, or at least a phrase of that similar nature. He says it's a bloody rocket, it's the Dawn Chorus, if you could do it all again, would you? There's really interesting ideas being played into. The Axe has this, again, one of those moments of dystopia, which is minimal to this album, but I really like when they do show up, talking about goddamn machinery. Why don't you speak to me? One day I'm going to take an axe to you, you wooden soldiers. I'm daring to turn yourselves off. Kind of almost praising himself as this like leader of sorts, but you can also apply it to relationships and how he deals with people, how he feels like he's in control of all these almost soldiers or robots of sorts, and how he feels like he has a higher power when in reality they're stronger than him.
Yeah.
I think there's some smart moments in lyricism, but I feel like a lot of times it just leads to ambience, which is really nice. But I feel like this thing it doesn't demand your presence too much. I think that's the biggest problem, where I feel like there isn't enough switch ups. While it's a nice ambience mix, it's not doing anything new with the styles of IDM and electronica here. Yeah. There's some good glitchy loops, but that's not the first time we've heard glitch loops like this. Like, I enjoy it. I think there's some good lyricism, some good performances. I just feel like some of these tracks don't stand apart from each other that much. They feel like they have the same like setup, where we'll get Thom at the beginning, and then we'll get into this like stretch of instrumental. We'll get another bit of Thom, but then we'll get into like the last leg that's just stretched out of instrumentation. It just seems really formulaic throughout, and I think the lyricism on this isn't super abstract to the point where it's like too complicated, but I think you get the main ideas throughout this. But I just think he's had better lyricism and more interesting things to say throughout. And yeah, that's all I really got to say. I enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun with this. This was one of the easier listens I've had in a little while to get through, but I just feel like it has its own problems. Keep in mind that all scores are futile, meaningless. Right now I'm feeling a 7 on this. I enjoyed it quite a bit, though.
I'm feeling 6.5.
Okay. And that was Anima of State. Now it's time to... Are you ready to rock, Jonathan?
Not with this.
Are you ready to help out a stranger? Because we're gonna do 2 reviews at once. I don't think we've ever tried to do this before, but we're gonna try to do 2 reviews at once. Because I feel like Jonathan wanted to do it because he didn't think he had a lot to say. I didn't have a lot to say about either of these releases.
And we can finally...
But I think they share the same common problem, is that
they're kind of forgettable.
They're forgettable, but they're also punching a dead genre which needs to evolve, and it hasn't evolved yet.
Yeah. Or has evolved, but they haven't with it.
It did evolve at one point, but that was like Black Keys were one of the people who did evolve it in like the early 2012s, but it hasn't really evolved since. Garage rock and blues rock hasn't really evolved. It's either evolved into like other genres, or it's kind of remained stagnant.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be talking about the Black Keys, Let's Rock, and the Raconteurs, Help a Stranger. So taking this one bit at a time, Black Keys, Akron blues rock / garage rock duo consisting of Don Auerbach, I always in percent say his name wrong, and Patrick Carney, who's a great and fantastic drummer. They're one of the most popular garage rock artists during the second wave of the genre's revival in the 2010s. They've had hit records like Rubber Factory and El Camino. Rubber Factory being their creative peak, where they mastered the combination of both blues rock and garage rock, while El Camino was their pop hit, where they mixed alt rock and pop and collaborated with Danger Mouse to create this like bunch of hit singles that were really sticky and unforgettable. This new album, Let's Rock, is kind of convinced on the idea that this one convicted murderer's last words while he was in the electric chair was "Let's Rock." So that's where the album art and the album title comes in. But it doesn't really play into any of these tracks, I feel like, because they're pretty much just generic tracks. Anyone can write these tracks. Going on to the Raconteurs, Help a Stranger. They're a Detroit rock supergroup consisting of Jack White, who is what does he say?
Please don't beat me up.
Brendan Benson, Jack Lawrence, and Patrick Keeler. And Jack White, fresh off the release of Boarding House Reach last year, which combined blues rock and experimental rock. And while I didn't like it, and Jonathan did,
I did.
I can commend it because it was at least trying out new things. And I think he was evolving as an artist and attempting to evolve the genre. And it had a steady Captain Beefheart influence, which is
my
interesting.
favorite album. So
yeah, it's interesting.
Makes sense why I would like the album a lot more than.
And this new album, Help a Stranger, was really interesting because they mixed the album by playing it over a radio frequency and listening it to in their car, which is actually really smart.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to use like good speakers. You want to use like
car speakers.
Yeah, no, you want to use shitty speakers.
Yeah.
You want to you want to mix it with your good speakers, and then you want to play it through shitty speakers or like shitty headphones.
Yeah.
to make sure it sounds good on like bad technology.
A lot of people are probably going to end up listening to it on.
Yeah. So both these releases, biggest problem is they don't do anything new.
Yeah,
they're stagnant. They've been done before. These ideas have been done before. They haven't evolved with the times, or at least any new ideas. And this is surprising for Jack White because he just came off of one of the more experimental albums of last year.
And
at least something that was unsurprising in one nature.
Yeah, it's weird because like I've been a fan of Jack White as much as I make fun of him. I actually do like most of his music. I think the White Stripes are really good. I like some of the early Raconteurs. I like his solo stuff. I like
his feud with the Black Keys.
Yeah, I like his
which is
feud with
another
the
reason
Black
why
Keys.
we're pairing together, because Black Keys and Jack White have been feuding for a little bit because Jack White doesn't like the fact that Black Keys essentially
sound like
Jack White in a sense,
but you're both,
it's more of like the genre. I think
you're both blues rock.
He was stepping on
garage.
Black Keys were stepping on to Jack White's territory, and he was going to take him out. And he found Patrick Carney in a New York bar, and they were going to fight. And Patrick Carney was just like, "Yeah, I almost fought him, but I don't know. I just want to make music. I'm a nerd. Just like it wasn't my choice to fight."
It's just but so like. Listening to all these things, it feels like Jack White has done this like slowly like progression thing. Like he's been taking more risks, doing things outside of this genre, and especially when you hit Boarding House Reach, which is way outside of like the traditional wheelhouse of what you hear of this. To take this much of a step back in
that's like 2 steps forward, 10 steps back.
Yeah,
I don't know where to start with a lot of these records because Black Keys, I think it's a good. Black Keys is the better one of these 2 records. Black Keys has a good collection of tracks where I feel like
on the first Black Keys, I don't get bored. Yeah, but I forget pretty much each song the moment it ends.
First listen, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty decent," and then the second listen, I was like, "I don't remember actually any of these moments." I really came to the realization none of these really stand out from one another. I think the biggest start is Shine a Little Light and Engelbirds. And Engelbirds we had on a playlist a couple months ago, and I said I enjoyed it. But now I'm kind of the other side to it, where I think these are some of the most generic songs I've heard all year. They just really don't stand out. They seem so common in the core garage rock.
Yeah.
The other side with Raconteurs, Born and Raised, their opening. California born and raised. No, you're not. Jack White's from Detroit, so I don't think any of the other members are from California. So unless you're pulling a Beach Boys and not actually from Beach Boys, actually from California, or are they one of those artists that like did the fake California thing?
They did the fake California. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Way.
But like, it's just so generic. Help Me Stranger is the only really moment on the Raconteurs' latest album that I really enjoy. It's emphatic. It's emphatic. That's not a word. It's unstoppable in a sense. The charisma that comes out of Jack White and the guitar licks on that track is really enjoyable, but everything else on here doesn't really stand out.
The only times I've had a moment besides it that stood out was when they were ripping off people, like Queen.
Yeah, Shine the Light on Me is just straight up Queen rip off with the acapella, operatic sections.
Yeah.
And then the Some Days I Don't Feel Like Trying straight up has a Freebird, like guitar rip off. And the same could be said for Black Keys, because on Sit Around and Miss You on their latest record, they have a Stuck in the Middle guitar riff. It's the same riff from Stuck in the Middle.
Yeah.
It's not new. Both these records go about like 38 to 41 minutes, and they seem like they're really long.
Yeah.
They have no right to be this long. And both these records really made me want to go back and listen to White Denim's latest release, Side Effects, because we talked about them in Central Playlist. We both really enjoyed that. And that's the same genre as this. Is like blues rock, garage rock mixed with prog rock. And it's a short little like 28-minute mix of jam sessions that isn't lyricism heavy like these 2 releases are. I think that's the biggest problem with these releases is they don't jam, but I feel like that's a big part that's missing from blues rock and garage rock is the jamming. There's no jamming in these.
Because you can have be in a genre that's like kind of come to a little bit of a standstill but still be noteworthy if you jam. That's the thing with we talk about Idols a lot, is Idols isn't bringing anything new sound wise to the world of punk. There's no new elements there, but what they do is they have
they have character
and the commitment, and they make fucking jams.
But they have jams, but it's not focused on the playing. They're focused on lyricism. But what they have Joe Talbot has
a
a character. He has character. This has no character.
Yeah.
The Please Don't Beat Me Up is pretty much the character of the Raconteurs album.
Yeah.
It's pretty similar. It's just basic. There's no character. Same thing with Black Keys. These are some of the most like random ass songs, like just any generic idea, whether it's about love or feeling down on yourself.
Yeah.
Is on here on both of these records. There's nothing that really grits me or anything like that. Black Keys does have some better moments with Low High, and I really enjoy Walk Across the Water with that kind of like grimy, kind of swirling aesthetic. I think that's one of the tracks that really I feel like they push a little bit of the boundaries, but none of these records really push any boundaries.
No.
And I think garage rock's kind of dead because of it, or it's in the need of evolve of artists that aren't Black Keys or Raconteurs. I think it's Black Keys, even though I say I'm pretty harsh on this album, I think it's one of Black Keys' like mid-tier records. It's not their worst. They've had worse. I'd rather listen to this over their last release, Turn Blue, and because that one was too slow. At least this has some interesting ideas, or not interesting ideas, fun, catchy performances on it.
Yeah.
Well, the Raconteurs doesn't really do anything. It just seems overly repetitive and goes on way too long.
There's literally no reason to listen to this as opposed to any other album. Pretty much every other thing Jack White's ever made is better than this.
Yeah.
Or at least more interesting than this.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I gotta really say. Keep in mind that the scores are futile, meaningless. On the Black Keys, I'm feeling like a 5 to 6. On the Raconteurs, I don't like it as much as Jack White's, so I'm gonna give it like a 3.
I'm feeling a 5 for Black Keys and probably a 3 on the Raconteurs.
Yeah. Well, I almost choked on that interview.
Oh my god. That was in an interview.
On that
Review.
I choked on that transition. Now it's time to choke on this EP, because it's Poppy's choked EP. Time to go over Poppy with her latest EP, Choke. Poppy is an American singer, songwriter, actress, fashion model, and YouTuber.
And cult leader.
She rose to prominence while working with director and musician Titanic Sinclair, which is the greatest stage name ever, who helped her enhance her YouTube presence by making short performance art videos and music videos. There's a bunch of weird theories around the character and around her, whether she's a human or a robot or a creature of Satan or something like that. I don't really know. I don't really follow it. I'm more interested in the music aspect.
She's a person who discovered that she can market herself by being weird and quirky.
Music aspect. This is her final release with Mad Decent before she becomes an independent artist, and this new EP is kind of a different style for her because it mixes stage of metal and industrial with pop, which I think comes off actually pretty interesting. I think Jonathan and me kind of differ on this because I think Jonathan kind of relates more to the industrial moments on this, while I relate to more just everything all around.
I relate more to so we were talking of going over these tracks. And you said your favorite were like the last 3, right? Mm-hmm. I like the first 2 and then the last one. So we at least agree on the last one.
Last one isn't industrial. It's just that's just pop.
Yeah.
That's the one
But it's good.
Yeah, no, it's good. But that's like one of the more things where that feels like straight up Poppy's wheelhouse, or just like a plain pop wheelhouse, where everything else is kind of different. You get the shades of metal or industrial.
Yeah.
Choke and voicemail are very loud industrial. Choke, voicemail, and me are very loud industrial tracks with Scary Mask is.
But they're loud and industrial, but there's still some notable pop elements. And her vocal performance fits. It fits the whole she has this whole the weird aspect of it.
Yeah.
And if you see some of the videos, she does the high pitched voice while doing weird, disturbing things, and that's what she's doing. That's her gimmick. She figured out that's how she can be popular. This seems to fit and feel more natural within that world than what you get in Meat and Scary Mask, where in Meat you have this really low, distorted voice just saying weird things.
Yeah, that's Titanic Sinclair.
Yeah, and then Scary Mask with the sudden bursts of metal and screaming, and it.
I think I really like that because this is surprising, and I know you compared it to Baby Metal.
Baby Metal.
Does Baby Metal have other people that aren't the trio vocalists? Do they have a dude vocalist?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But just the general
it's
the
surprising.
It's when there's metal and she's just doing her softer voice. It's it's Baby Metal. Yeah. It's the same knee jerk oh, that's off. That's not how that's supposed to be reaction. and it's to me it just feels like a cheap gimmick of being weird.
I like it, but I also don't think it's more than just like a few tracks.
Yeah, and
I feel like I would like to see her do in the future. I think Fever 333 is okay. Their performance, not like the actual vocalist on the track.
Yeah.
I think he's okay. But I wish there wasn't any vocals besides Poppy on the track.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it was just like, okay, it kind of takes away from the narrative of Scary Mask, how she's kind of hiding herself off and you're never going to see the true her. I know you said Meat when we were off camera. You said Meat was, you found it just overtly edgy.
It's trying way too hard.
I think I agree with part of that, but I also like the idea of kind of fame and how you market yourself, which I think is the idea that Poppy has on herself and how she markets herself.
Yeah.
I think it applies really nicely. I feel like that's one of the moments where she combines the character of herself with herself really well, so you get both edges of the natural and character kind of combined together, which I think is really nice. Choik and Voicemail, I think, are just they just seem like legitimate Poppy. It's not that weird kind of blend, which is I don't know. I here's the thing with Poppy is like I don't know if I want to hear the character of her or if I just want to hear like her.
I want to hear her because this is something I've like talked with other people about, and
like I don't know if we're supposed to like which one is it aimed for because of like if we're supposed to hear her, why is her marketing with all the character and it's just that confusing.
Like it's something to talk about with other people about various other artists and the idea of like being weird. And there's like two ways of being weird. There's artists who are weird for the sake of being weird because they know that they can like market themselves that way. And to me, that's like Poppy. That's the ant word. And then there's like artists who are weird and have like something actually to say with it. Who are weird because that's like genuine and it's like an artistic statement. And that's like David Lynch who also makes music. And Death Grips.
And David Byrne.
Because
he has to wear those 3XL suits.
Exactly. And that was kind of the thing a lot of people talked about with Billie Eilish.
Oh, yeah.
How, like, everyone's, like, complaining about, like, her aesthetic just feels like it's just, like, weird for the sake of weird. But then, like, it actually feels a little genuine with her music.
I think the music feels genuine.
Yeah.
I just feel like some of the outfits she wears, she's just kind of weird. That's about it. You can say the same thing with David Lynch. Because, again, he needs to wear those 3XL suits.
David Burns, you said Lynch.
Oh, God. But both of them, they share the same suits.
Probably. But no, it's just... And with Poppy, it doesn't feel like she has a point behind it. Like, there doesn't seem to be, like, any, like, real artistic drive behind it. It just feels like she learned that's how she can market herself.
Yeah. I think earlier in her career where she had, like, tracks like Low Life, that was very evident where, like, the music did not match. And then she had tracks later on with, like, Computer Boy that fit a little bit better. It wasn't fully there, but I feel like with like, Scary Mask, something that's just completely that fact, it works. And Meat, just something completely grotesque. And Holy Mountain, which I think is the one we can agree on, is the one that works because the track's her talking to God, and it's all about the downfall of humans, how we're all so terrible. And that
was the one where it felt merited.
Yeah, because it was actual full blown narrative.
Yeah, and like I felt that a little bit in like Choke. Like it seemed in those ones, it seemed like she actually had like something driving it behind it beyond just trying to be weird and edgy, which is what I felt was driving like Scary Mask and Meat, which is why I wasn't as into them.
Choke and Voicemail, my biggest problems with that is like... Actually, no, my biggest problem with Voicemail is the line, Poppy's your mommy. I don't know why I can't take that serious.
But
like the song, it has an interesting idea because it's like, quote from her, I don't let people leave voicemails on my phone. I have a mailbox always full so people can't leave messages. I thought it'd be an interesting idea to write a song about, so she has control over people that way.
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea. I don't like the Poppy's your mommy line. But Choke is like 2-minute song that runs on for 2 extra minutes that it shouldn't.
I can kind of see that.
Because, like, I feel like all these are short and they have the natural progression. Like, even Voicemail, I feel like that has the natural progression, but Choke just runs on for 2 extra minutes, where I feel like some of these have those, like, surprising breakdowns, like Scary Mask and Meat, but Choke doesn't. And it just seems off in comparison to the rest of the album, or EP. But I had fun with this. I enjoyed it. And I think...
Yeah, I had fun, but it's... Again, it has a lot of the issues that I have always had with Poppy and artists who do what she does.
Yeah, I think it's more transitional piece, and I'm gonna rate it as sus. But it's not transitional in a way. Sus. I said thus, but it came out sus. I'll rate it sus.
Okay, I thought you were like giving its number rating.
No.
Like, okay.
But it's not transitional in a way that like I feel like even Denzel Curry's Zoo was transitional in a way.
Yeah.
But it felt like he was able to make it more than that. With his performance, I don't think Poppy's able to do that in such a way. Keep in mind, those scores a few Talaminos right now. I'm feeling like a 7 on this. And goodbye, Gambino.
Goodbye.
We loved you well for those audio listeners.
The internet's now dead.
The internet's now dead. Stay Puft Marshall, man.
You can now find our show on radio broadcast and
yeah. Stay Puft Marshall, man. Just dropped Childish Gambino for some reason. I have no idea because it's haunted. He's a spooky ghost.
I'm giving it a 6. Is what I was giving it.
Okay.
Yeah, it fell before I could say that.
Yeah. And that's it. I've choked, and now it's time to do the
Schlagenheim remover.
Wait, is it Schlagenheim? Schlagen. Okay. Schlagenheim. We're going over Black Midi Schlagenheim. Black Midi, experimental rock quartet consisting of Georgie Greep. That's the best name ever.
Yeah.
He must be from Northampton, because that is a fake name if I've ever heard one. Matt Kwasniewski. Calvin. I know Calvin. Yeah, whatever you said. Cameron Picton and Morgan Simpson. Their name is actually from the Japanese music genre, consisting of compositions that use MIDI files to create a song remix containing large number of notes, typically in the thousands, millions, billions, or even trillions. So it looks like just one solid black line when you open the MIDI, or at least the keypad or whatever. I first was introduced from because people were talking about the track Talking Heads that they released earlier this year. It had light shades of both Talking Heads and surprisingly Primus. I forget how I'm supposed to actually pronounce
Primus.
I know. I pronounce we have this joke that I pronounce it the wrong way and I continue to it. Now I'm at the point where I don't know which one's the correct one. So the joke has just gone to the point where I'm just clueless.
The joke became real.
But the track also had a weird skate punk kind of vibe to it, with the signature hectic nature that Black Midi's kind of offering in this current moment. They take the name from their namesake. It feels like a lot of moments the instruments are just all wailing on top of each other, not to the point where it's bad, but it weirdly works. It's just very tense and hectic.
Yeah.
And has you in a chokehold. The Wikipedia background on this album, because Wikipedia's greatest resource of known to man and sometimes dolphins. The band recorded a majority of Schlagenheim over a 5-day period with producer Dan Carey. Throughout its recording, the band made their conscious decision not to replicate their live set, which is good. Good idea. Yeah. Embellishing their 4-piece setup with synthesizers, sequencers, drum machines, banjos, and organs, as well as the music was developed organically through extensive jamming sessions. Yes, this is how you make music. That is how you make music. I hate artists that just replicate their fucking sets. You jam, you perform some live sets to yourselves, and then you pick the ideas that work. Fucking love that idea. But you don't just perform your live sets because that's boring. This is one of the more interesting rock releases in the last decade.
Yeah, it's
because it's new. It feels new.
It covers a lot of ground.
Yeah. Which I think it can also be seen as a downfall.
It can be, and I think it does hurt this album a little bit, is how all over the place it is.
Because you get to the point where it's cowboys, and it's I'm weird because I make music and people call me weird.
Yeah. And
that was a very overt simplification of it, but yeah.
Yeah, and actually when I first was getting ready to listen to this album, I actually got really worried. Because when I looked, and I was on Spotify, I was all right, let's listen to this. I saw their first, fans also was Drala. And I was God, it's just going to be the same thing
We're going
over
back.
and over again.
More garage rock, yeah.
And I was just oh, fuck. And then I heard the first track where it did, the sudden switch into, the noise elements. And I was oh, God, this is literally just going to be Drala again. And then it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that alone made this album, so much better just because of what I was expecting.
This is, I think... I don't want to do full track by track, but I feel like there's a lot of tracks to mention on this. So 953, it's all about this idea where some of the lyricism of the track, please stop all this strange fantasy. This is not who you are, not who you want to be. How people are telling you in life, you're not this, you're this, or you should conform to their ideas of this. But it has that hectic nature where everything feels like it's going after once. This very hectic, not chase, but talking or not talking heads. Black Midi has you by your collar essentially with their music. Yeah. It's really interesting. Speedway, this like really slow track where the bass is very present, and like you get this mumbling vocalism with a honey, we won't build this to code. Honey, we won't build it. It's just like I love the lyricism on that, how it's very improvised. I'm talking about how they're going to do music their way, which goes back to their setup, which really works. I like that idea. Near Detroit, Michigan, talking about Flint, Michigan, which is an issue that needs to be brought up more. I heard they have a plan to get clean water now, which is good. But
it took fucking long enough.
It took like 20 more years than it needed to. But just one of the vocalists screaming, there's lead in the water, there's lead in the water. Yeah. That is their most punkish on here, I think. Yeah. More hardcore punkish on here.
Yeah, I'd say it's their most hardcore, except maybe BM. Yeah. Where the vocals feel like he's just like channeling the Dead Kennedys.
Yeah, but BM is more funky and groovish.
Well, it's just why it's also an audio. The Dead Kennedys are like really good because they mixed punk with like groovier elements, and then like Jello's insane vocals.
Yeah. Then we get into Western, which has it's all talking about this codependent relationship, which leads one person to shoot another one in a standoff. It has this what's the term for Western music? I can't think of it. There's a term, not slow dive. It'll come to me in a second. Yeah. But it has this very Western feel, where not Western as in opposed to Eastern, but like the genre of film making, where it feels very dusty, old, decrepit. Some lyricism saying, after all the shitty things that you've done for me, I left you in a ditch, and then going on, but after all the pretty things you've done for me, I left you in a ditch. After the shootout, you just shot him, left him in a ditch. Very interesting idea of codependency, of how one, you want the other person dead, but at the same time you don't because you need them. Yeah. But at some point it's got to end because it has to. I really like the lyricism, but all played out in a vibe that makes it feel like a Western, which is really cool. It's a really long track. It's 8 minutes. Doesn't feel like that. I get lost every time. Very surprised. I'm like, oh, this is going to be 8 minutes. And I listen to it. I'm like, oh, that was a great 8 minutes. I loved it. Then we go into moments like Ausschlagenheim. I said it right that time.
God, right.
Okay, cool. Which is, it's the word for hit home in German, and it's a phrase that applies to the realization of uncomfortable and unsettling and even painful truths. So all tracks about these very painful truths that people are kind of realizing. Yeah. And then we get BM, which is this kind of like this pervert talking about how this one woman moves with a purpose, and all these other guys are kind of like just sucking themselves off, but she doesn't care because she moves with a purpose, kind of glorifying this one woman. But it has this weird like off-killer style. It reminds me of this one Run the Jewels track where they get this one feature in, and he's just this weird kind of perverted, and the vocalist they have on top of it, it's just twanginess that his voice has is what makes tracks like Talking Heads, their single that's not on this album, so amazing, because it's just so weird. It's just like
it's almost like, especially like on this track, like it's going into a character.
Yeah,
which is something like why I mentioned Dead Kennedys is like that's something Jello would do a lot in their tracks. Is he had like two distinct singing styles. He had actually had like 5. He had a lot, but he had 2. They came in 2 different like groupings. The first grouping was like his basic like making a statement. This is where you get songs like Nazi Punks Fuck Off, where he's just making like a blanket statement, just telling things how it is. And then you have the ones that he'd use for like Soup is Good Food and Buzz Bomb, where he was like playing a character, and that's where he'd exaggerate elements of his voice and go like either really like low pitch or really high pitch.
Yeah. Then we get moments like years ago where I think they're actually having a lot more fun, because they are making reference to, I think it's an Atlanta rapper that was on a Public Access show, and he goes, years ago they tried to put me in a, because he was supposed to freestyle and he just didn't. He was bad at it. And they do that little bit, and then they go, years ago they tried to throw me in a payphone. It's all about reminiscing on the past and how they kind of evolved since, and where they're going. And then Doctor's all about a survivor of sexual assault and how the survivor of sexual assault is not broken by the person who has committed sexual assault. The lyricism keeps on saying, he could not break me. He could not break me. And I think I will be this person for the remainder of my days. And I keep on saying this every day or something along the lines of that. So, yeah, I think this album's very weird. I think it falls under the uncanny weird, which is good. Uncanny weird, best weird.
Yeah.
You don't want to go too weird because then it just becomes boring.
Yeah, and
too much of a good thing is a bad thing.
And like we just talked about with like Poppy, it doesn't feel like a forced marketing weird. It feels like a genuine, like, just they're playing characters because like they feel the need to play these characters when they play the characters, and other times they just feel like themselves.
Yeah. I'm gonna have you answer this one. Are the themes too all over the place?
Themes, no. I think having themes be more all over the place can work, especially in this type of music. I don't think your themes need to be like laser focused or like tightened. You can have just broad shotgun albums that are just hitting a lot of topics.
Do you think it has a problem because there's so many different storylines going into this and all it covers so many topics and so many places? Does it have an effect on where the album flows? Because for me, I don't really think it does, but I think it also could.
Yeah, I don't think the themes affect the album flow. I think some of the style variations affect the album flow. Like they stylistically seem to be,
which is also a good thing because I feel like for an album of this length, it's around 43 minutes. You need that differentiating style places.
So like I think it could, and I think sometimes it maybe like hinders it a little bit, but I think as a whole, it doesn't like bring the album down that much.
Yeah, there's so many things that this album's working for. It's style and character up to boot. There's so many risks and lyricism and performance that we're taking. And is it an essential project?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's an essential project. I really enjoy it. Keep in mind that all scores are futile and meaningless. Right now, I'm feeling a -5 out of 10. No, I'm just kidding. I'm feeling a 9. I really like this.
I'm feeling an 8.
Yeah, 8 to 9.
Yeah.
That's probably where I am in the current moment.
Give it 8.5. I'll give it 8.5.
You gotta go back to the bits.
No, just because I feel like it's not a 9 because that's where I'm putting albums like.
Yeah, no, because there's that's the thing with this album is like I really like it, but there's just something about it that just like I know it's not there yet because I know there's future with this.
Yeah,
I think that's the problem is I'm bracing myself.
But you can still feel like there's something holding it back.
Yeah, I just don't know what it is. And I think it's just because I'm holding up the fact that I feel like what they're doing next is going to be so much more than this because this just seems like a freshman project, but it's so much more than that. Yeah, which is it's the weird part. Because it is a freshman project. I enjoyed this though. Nonetheless, it is one of the most interesting rock albums of the last like 5 years, 10 years, decade. Yeah. But yeah. That's it. We made it through the Anthony and Todd show this week. Woo! And this has been episode 91, an episode we would like to call Thom Yorke's Anima of State. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all at Anthony and Todd. You can subscribe to us at youtube.com/The Anthony and Todd Show, and you can give us money at patreon.com/The Anthony and Todd Show so I can buy
jet ski.
A jet ski. I want to buy a jet ski. And
buy something worthwhile.
What?
Like rent.
I want to buy a jet ski because I know I'm going to immediately damage it. I'm going to drive it into the docks. It's just going to go bloop. But yeah, if you're listening in podcast form, make sure you subscribe on what other podcast form you're on, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts and Google Play Podcasts. But until next time, guys, I'm Vincent.
I'm Jonathan.
And see ya, boyos. I'm going to play some outro music.
Play that outro music.
What up?